Play clock all the way down to 4. Penix taking a shot deep. They pop the top on the defense, and it's caught. McMillan with the first and goal. Penix fires. Touchdown, Polk.
Oh, wow. You guys are really reminiscent, huh?
Big time Hollywood.
I wasn't born then, so.
3rd and goal. That's a long yard for Davis and a touchdown. In one of those games, he went 1-1 while at Indiana against the Spartans. Taking a deep shot here, got a man. Caught again. They victimized that Spartan secondary. Again, it's Polk working against Amir Speed. 5 receivers on 3rd and 6. Penix surveys. Complete. Touchdown. Dwala Papa. Penix tucks it under. Into the end zone. Touchdown, Polk. Magic from Michael Penix. I watched him play a lot in the Canadian Football League with the Edmonton Eskimos.
Preach.
Penix downfield. Room service. Touchdown, Polk. This is I know it's early in the season. People discount the rankings, but this is a tough team, Michigan State. And this is a big run by Cameron Davis.
I guess we should say good midpoint.
You guys had a Cam Fab start in Ace's place in safety. I'm wondering, looking at the film, how do you feel like, well, first off, why have him shift over where he had obviously been a Husky prior to that, and how did you see him play?
Played some safety here previously, so being able to make the move, his level of preparation showed us that he can be able to do it. So, I mean, literally, he went into some Navy SEAL training toward the end of the week, and he really did a great job in his performance.
You guys had a pretty good run defense. Just what allowed you guys to have so much success? Was it mainly Julius Ervin?
It helps when you have some stocking stuffers like that on the inside, and that definitely helps. But the biggest thing is just the guys applying all their techniques on those given downs, and what you're starting to see is just the confidence in their preparation ahead of time, and everyone did their job. And most of the time, if you go do your job, success should not surprise you.
The defensive backfield in terms of preparation, the confidence, and then, people getting injured, people stepping up.
Yeah, and the one thing that we're trying to show the guys is you have the ability to continue to keep doing everything because the scheme, the system, and the structure is there. One of the main reasons why everyone kind of meets together is everyone is hearing the same message. So that, like with Cam Fab, all the secondary guys are meeting together fairly frequently, so him going from one position to the next, it's just a matter of us being able to make sure on our end that we can get our 11 best players on the football field at one time.
Would you still consider your secondary kind of precariously thin on experience?
Yes, and that's something that we all know. So we know we have to keep it simple so we could be more simple and explosive on that end because they are fairly youthful. And I think as we get in through the weeks, we'll have some more players coming back.
Carson's made a pretty good impression on special teams, and especially this past weekend. Just kind of how is he growing?
We're definitely been pleased and impressed with how Carson is coming along. Obviously, on special teams, he's shown that he is the dog that you got to watch out for. That is something that's great to see. He's definitely coming along at linebacker in his plays that he's been in, and we're looking forward for his continued growth at our position.
Were there one or two things coming out of that game that you'd like to see the defense improve on? that stood out to you maybe in the second half?
And just being able to finish in the fourth quarter. Doing better on some of the fourth downs, I think, as you saw all the times they went for it on fourth down, and just minimizing some of those unforced errors. And that's what coaching is. It's truly all about. It's literally the correction of errors. So that's our task as coaches.
Julius Ervin obviously is still pretty inexperienced at corner, but he had a couple big plays in that game. How did you see him come out of his second start there at corner?
Yeah, Dr. J was coming along pretty good. It was really good to see his growth, his development, and to some of us, it's not a surprise because we've seen his level of preparation as it is, and we've also seen his skill set, and that's one of the things that we told ourselves: hey, what can we do to get our 11 best guys on the football field? So it was just a matter of him getting over there and having a few tools in his bag to be able to get him some success and to make it so he could be able to be successful on each down.
You have pretty much the same guys up front on the defensive line as last year, and they got run over like in a game like this last one, at Michigan per se and Oregon later. What's the difference for these guys? What makes them better than they were last year?
I think when you have the opportunity to go through and endure an offseason by one of the best strength and conditioning coaches in the country, and Coach Ron McKeefrey, your mindset, your physical body, everything's going to change. And I think there are some things that we're probably able to do systematically and structurally that will put them in position to be able to be successful. And also, I don't know kind of what their preparation level was like a year ago, but I do know seeing the individuals from a preparation standpoint, we can see why they're playing fairly confident because they're knowing what's about to occur, they're understanding what can happen, and they're all applying and playing with good technique.
Like he said, I mean, the numbers were tough against the run last year, but I'm curious, knowing the offseason they went through and I guess the discipline of this group and the way that you taught them, how confident were you going into this season? Okay, we're going to be able to stop the run against some pretty physical offenses.
Well, that has to be an expectation from a staff standpoint and to a player standpoint. You have to know, you have to understand, you have to trust, and you have to believe that being able to stop the run, that has to be your premium. You have to do that on defense and make teams one-dimensional. So that's kind of been something that we've been preaching to them from day one, and not knowing or understanding anything about what happened in the past. We told them when we come in and open the book is brand new. Everybody has a new page. Your name hasn't changed, but we don't know anything about you. So everything you do from this moment forward, let's make sure we're working to be able to create excellence, and we're chasing it.
Stanford's kind of the same way, where obviously they're physical, pro style, they do what they do. What makes them tough to match up with just with the way that they play?
One thing we have a lot of respect for is Coach Shaw and his staff. You can tell that they are very innovative, and there are some things that they do that really, really, really stress you. So everyone has to be on guard for being able to play your fundamental technique, and then they also combine that with some RPO scenarios to where they can get guys open. And the one thing we told our players about here yesterday is we know we're going to be playing against a top-tier elite quarterback. He can make throws that probably 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the country can make, and we have a lot of respect for McKee from what we've seen on film.
How did Ulamu Ali do this last weekend?
MJ was good. Being able to see him come in and play and hold up some gaps, you can tell our linebackers love it when he's in the game because nobody's going to climb. And it allows those guys to be able to play fast. But seeing MJ come in and continue to keep playing and getting better and better and better, that's what it's all about. And to see his attitude change as he gets more confident as a coach, that is so satisfying.
What have you been most pleased with overall?
You said what?
What have you been most pleased with so far with the 3 games behind you now?
Thus far, just our guys learning each game, to where each game we've seen some kind of fundamental improvement, and that's what enduring the process is all about from our standpoint. So knowing that there are still other things that we still have to improve on, even coming out of the Michigan State game, there were still 4 or 5 things per position that everyone has the ability to look at, and that's probably one of the reasons why we coach. Is to make sure we can be able to be better on each play and make sure that you're never a play late.
What was that, just being in the stadium on Saturday? It was a little bit different from the previous 2 weeks. What was that experience like, that atmosphere like from your perspective?
It was very good. Coming from scenarios where we had been in these environments, for me, I felt comfortable. It was great. And we tried to tell the players that hadn't been out there, defensively, when you're on the field at home, it's going to be loud. So you have to make sure all the communication things that you've got to do pre-snap, you have to be on guard. And I think our players did a great job of understanding that and preparing to that. And it was just really good to see the Purple Rain show up and show out.
Cook talked about how difficult the offense was to defend in practice, even going back to the spring. What is it about Michael Penix from the other side, practicing against him, that is challenging to defend?
Because when you have a quarterback that can make any and every throw on the football field and put the ball exactly where it's supposed to be, that makes you challenged on defense. Because there are some times you could be where you're supposed to be on body with the receiver, and he puts it to where the defender can't make a play. So sometimes that becomes rather frustrating. But and we had to tell our players, hey, when you're going against a championship caliber offense, there are going to be some times they're going to make some plays. And I know the offensive coaches told them, when you're playing against a championship caliber defense, there are going to be some times we're going to make some plays. And when you see the ebbs and flows when you go against each other, that's exactly how you can raise everyone's level of competition.
Coach, the yards and points you gave up in the fourth quarter, you're up by 25 with 2 to go. How much of that keeps you up at night? How much of that you just kind of shock up that, hey, we were up by 25 points in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, you never look at it like you were up by so much in the fourth quarter. As a coach, you always want to make sure you talk to your players about one of the guiding premises of our program, and that is to finish. So we have to do our job and still close out football games. And maybe that's probably one of the greatest things, because for us, that's been our number one point of contention and point of emphasis thus far, understanding how to finish and close teams out. That's when you become elite. When you do what you do, you have to be able to understand how to close people out and make those plays.
Christian's question is a similar question. With Stanford having pretty 4 solid receivers, practicing against the 4 guys that you have to, JP, Jalen, how much does that kind of elevate the DB room to when you face a team like Stanford that has tall receivers, it's not as much of a surprise?
Yeah. And probably one of the best things when you get into conference play, every team is going to have pretty good receivers. And that's one of the things that we love about this conference is, from a defensive back standpoint, you have to be on your game at every moment of the day. When you go to sleep, you got to think about that big receiver that you're going to face, or the fast receiver that you're going to face. So being able to have that in practice on a day-to-day basis, that just lets our guys understand you have to be on guard and on your game at all times.
Holtzclaw got a chance to play on special teams. What's he need, about another 20 pounds to get into the scrimmage lineup?
No, for Lance, it's just a matter of him continuing to grow and develop, learn the scheme, understand everything. But we can see from a skill standpoint, I think, as you guys probably saw him running around on the field, he definitely can run. And the one thing that we try to commend our guys to be able to do is you have to be able to run fast and hit hard. If you can continue to do that, we will find places for you on the football field.
How important has been the play of edge rushers, their consistency? Can you just talk about the play of the edge rushers, how they've been consistent, what that's led to how your defense is playing?
Yeah, when you have edge rushers who can be consistent with respect to setting edges in the run game, but also being able to wreak havoc in the backfield, that makes your team on defense elevate. Now, there's some things we can do from a coaching standpoint just to make sure that we don't let the money get away, because there's probably 7 or 8 scenarios that have happened already where we let some sacks get away, and you can tell those guys are pulling their hair out trying to do everything they can to make sure they finish those given plays. But our edges have definitely been one of the bright sides for us thus far when it comes to them being able to wreak havoc in the backfield.
What's happening with Asa?
No, he's just doing everything he can to get back as soon as he can. It was just kind of a little freak deal where he got hit on the side in practice. So we're looking forward to getting him back. We need all the bullets in the gun.
How about Jordan Perriman?
Yeah, Jordan in the same scenario. As if it goes as planned, we should all the all the dogs should be out of the kennel. Yes. And the one thing about most of the guys, they're doing everything they can to get back and to try to come back as soon as they can.
We've seen some plays on the D-line where Zion will swing inside, we'll see Boyce swing outside. Is that because those guys are so versatile and multiple, or is that about kind of creating confusion? Is it all of the above?
Yeah, a little bit of the above. There's some things you're definitely trying to do so you can change some windows in the run game and utilize some of the skill of some of the guys inside. Because Voy is someone in the pass game, his twitch shows up. And we're definitely happy to have someone like that, especially as a young player with some twitch that can play inside on our team.
Anything else, Coach Inge? I got one just since you mentioned the excitement you have when all the dogs are run out of the kennel. What does that do for you all as defensive coaches?
It's one of those scenarios to where when you have every asset in your program that you can pull from, you can let the reins go. So when you have everyone that's there, everyone that's been preparing, everyone who is available, now you can be more at ease because you're not on pins and needles thinking, well, hey, if one guy goes down, this, and this are affected. So what you're always trying to do is just to make sure whenever you can operate at full capacity, that's something that you're always trying to strive for as a coach in your program.
All right. Thank you, Coach Inge.
Go Dogs. Thank you all.
Thanks. A lot of one-liners you got to talk about that guy.
I'm not trying to keep up with that.
How we doing?
Good.
Back to the tape, just how satisfying was that result against Michigan State?
Every win is hard fought, and I mean that, and it's extremely satisfying. The guys put a ton of work into it. Obviously, there's some aspects of the game we're really disappointed in, and I think that was probably eye-opening for the guys a little bit, that there were some spots that even in a big game like that we could execute even better. But the kids were fired up, and they definitely weren't satisfied after the game. So that was, I thought, something really kind of a good little surprise on Sunday, how they felt like they definitely kind of left some meat on the bone there.
What were you disappointed in?
What do you think?
Fourth quarter?
How about goal line? Yeah. Add both those to it. I'd say those two things, fourth quarter and short yardage conversions, would be the top of the list.
Explain as best you can kind of why things weren't perfect down there.
Lack of execution. Went back, and you have to be honest when you look at stuff like, was it just a bad concept? What was it? And honestly, it was the look we were expecting, and we just misfired. Lack of execution, there's no excuse for it, and we know the detail that has to be put into those kind of plays, and we'll learn from it. We'll be better.
Richard Newton, a couple years ago, was really a great goal line back for these guys. Was using him something you thought about? Or?
Oh, for sure. Rich is going to continue to increase his role, and again, some of the practice limitations and things like that. I think, I feel like Rich is probably really, this week I would say he's full strength. And so sometimes when guys get a little bit limited in the game planning and reps during the week, it gets a little bit harder to get him in. But Rich will continue to get more involved, and I would be surprised if you didn't see a lot more 6 out there this week.
You've talked before about why you like to be up in the booth in terms of kind of maintaining a sense of calm in play calls and everything like that. What was the atmosphere like up from your perspective up there on Saturday? And are you able to kind of maintain a Zen state when there's as much happening in the atmosphere of the stadium as there was? What was that from your eyes and your perspective?
Yeah, no, it's great up there. They got nice cushioned chairs and everything's good. But you can feel it and you can sense it. I thought it was just phenomenal what the crowd and the environment was for our kids, specifically on, third downs for our defense. When you look at that, like there's there's no way to say that doesn't impact the football game. And saw it from the Seahawks the week before, and just things like that when you have an advantage playing at home that you're going to be able to count on a little bit. And just the energy that our guys will have offensively is, I think sometimes people are excited about it and they talk about it, and then there's a reality of when you're seeing it from my point of view of somebody, misfiring on the field because of what's going on out there, and then the whole sideline feeding off of it is exciting. So that was really good to see.
You had a couple of linemen helped off the field last Saturday, and Kleppo and Fatano, and I think he came back the second one. And then you've got Kirkland kind of still holding in the wings. What's an update on those three guys? Yeah,
Kirkland practiced again yesterday, and again, we've been pretty patient with Jackson, just trying to make the best decisions possible. And I know right out the gate, our meeting yesterday, we said we're going to get Jackson involved right away in the beginning of the week, and fully anticipate him being part of the game plan. And with Troy, he was back out there yesterday. He was good to go. Nate was trying to get through things yesterday as well. So, and as you mentioned, Troy finished the game. So planning on all three of those guys being available, and I know they all have some things to work through, but nothing that should hold them out.
Brian, going back to execution on goal line and that players learning from that, did you all feel like they recognized what was supposed to happen? It's just a matter that the execution to complete that, or?
Yeah, I think they did. One of the risks when you're breaking out of a huddle fast and trying to put the pressure on the defense is obviously for the potential for a misfire on the play. You keep the concept as simplistic as possible, hoping that they can, complete that task. And we just misfired, and it was small details, pad level, and the right angles off the ball, and they just didn't do that. So it was really disappointing.
What happened to Devin Culp? He looked like it was pretty serious, and then a couple plays later, he's right back in the game. Yeah,
I teased Devin. He thinks he's in the NBA or something. He had to be carted off and came right back on the field. But he was good. He's ready to go.
Is there any difference between the player you thought you were getting when you guys took Michael Penix Jr. from the transfer portal and what he's put on film these first 3 weeks?
No, there really isn't. I think our entire staff, three of us for sure, between, Nick and Coach DeBoer and myself, have a ton of experience with Mike and know who he is and what he's capable of doing. And I think Mike's refinement process from when he got here through spring ball to fall camp and just taking in all the things and experiences that he's had as a quarterback and knowing the type of things that he needed to improve on and being able to be in a system that he could, utilize and fall back a little bit, knowing the system, and then improve on all the little nuances. And he's taken all those steps, but all the throws, the ability piece, things like that are not a surprise at all. I think when Mike was in the Big Ten making throws, I don't feel like there was any ball on the field that he couldn't get to and things like that. So I think just experience and confidence in the system has allowed Mike to really, come out, start hot and make great decisions, and that's really enabled him to have a great year so far.
He's moving sometimes every receiver on the field around the formation pre-snap. Is that always coming from you? Is he seeing things, or?
That's coming from me. Yep.
Did you anticipate that Jalen Polk would have a big game like that? Was that a matchup that you knew, or is that just? It seems like you have so many different guys that you go to and every given play. Just how does that evolve?
Yeah, two of JP's hits were plays that were designed for the Z that we knew there was a high probability that he would be able to get that hit. And we've said that before for a long, long time that, that's one of the, I think, special things about this offense is that you can see all these receivers are going to have an opportunity to make a play. And so I think that's theoretically going into the schematics of it, you would say for a defense it's a little bit harder to get a beat on one guy and hopefully make them be pretty broad in their coverage ideas and things like that. So, I think every game we go into a good game plan knowing that those guys are all going to have a shot to make a play, and that happened again this week.
I don't know how else to ask this, so I'll just ask you, how impressed were you by the touchdown to Talapapa, and how many quarterbacks have you seen that can actually make that throw and thread that in there like that?
2 quarterbacks, and yes, I was impressed.
Who's the second besides Penix that you've seen do that?
Hayner. Yep.
Yeah.
But Mike is like, his delivery and confidence, and again, it was a great ball, but just look at the placement. Not only was it a good football that Wayne could catch, but it was a protected throw. You know what I mean? He had the body of the offensive player in front of the defender, and the ball was pushed wide, and it was a great play. And just shows you again, you know, Mike's ability to process through things when it's not perfect, when his first read goes away or gets stuck, and being able to, you know, get through and understand, know exactly where that next throw is going to be, and then get the ball out of his hand. You know, and that's part of it. We've been protecting really well, but I thought Mike had, you know, 2 critical plays in the football game that were throwaways that were huge. You think about the clutch drive where he rolls out to his left and just throws the ball away. If he gets tackled there on whatever that was, the 42-yard line, and the clock's running, we got clock issues, and we're second on a mile. I mean, that's a big play. And just his experience and understanding how to get the ball out has been huge for us.
Does he need to dial back a little bit on the velocity on the short game a little bit? Or?
You know, Mike has really good touch. You know, there's a couple of those that he had to, you know, put pretty hot. But in general, we run a decent amount of, you know, crossers and underneath throws and things like that. But most of the time, Mike's the one guy that knows how to take a little bit off, keep the same arm tempo, but take a little bit off the throw. So typically he does pretty good on that. If it comes out too hot because he's under duress, that can happen at times.
Michigan State secondary, was that just you guys beating them, or are they young and a little bit vulnerable? I couldn't really tell.
I mean, I think that every, you know, secondary is going to have some spots that you can go after and attack, and obviously we knew their boundary safety 3 was out, and potentially we'd be able to take advantage of that a little bit. But you know, I thought more than anything, I thought it was our guys executing, and going into the game, we knew there was going to be, you know, some catches that the guys were going to have to be, you know, contested, like Rome's on the backup catch. I mean, that was a great throw and a great catch by him. You think about Jalen McMillan's catch. I thought that was incredible route detail by Jalen. That was him just beating the defender. He got on top, leaned inside, squeezed it so that he left Mike, you know, 5 yards on the side to be able to push the ball wide and make a great catch. So I think there's some of both, but I felt like our guys in critical moments, you know, out-executed some of their guys.
I've been a play caller here for a couple years in a row, and then hadn't done it for a number of years before that. How do you feel like you're maybe a better play caller now than you were a couple of years ago?
Oh, I think everything's always reps. You know what I mean? It does take time, and there's things that evolve in your decision-making process, I think, and as you're looking at a game plan, knowing the things that you'll be able to make a difference on and making those shots count and just not missing on them. And I think that those are the things you gain more and more confidence in, and every year you see something and it reminds you of a game, how something else played out. So I think there's an experience piece to that can build confidence, and you know exactly how you want your system to look. I think I always talk to our staff. I think back to 2019 was my first year calling it at Fresno, and there were some elements of that offense that were kind of out of our DNA a little bit. You know, Kalen had left and had other guys come in, a lot of good ideas and things like that, but, you know, didn't stay as true to some of the things that were principled in our offense. And, you know, those are things you learn from, you know, that where does the confidence come from in our system, and what are we always going to be able to do on a week-to-week basis, and, you know, just keep building off those things and be able to identify things quicker that are advantageous for your offense.
How does play into that as a play call in terms of going like, that play, let me go ahead and then maybe say, you know what, let me.
Yeah, for sure. There's a huge piece to that, because there's, and I think that would go with the experience piece too, is knowing when, you know, you may want to call that, you know, it's going to be a good play, but when you say, I know, you better know. You know, you might not be like, you know what, I just need to see that look one more time, run another setup play before I get it. And so there's certainly a a patience piece, and there's certainly a piece where you just got to pull the trigger too. And it's not always going to be the perfect look, and you're going to have to count on you guys to make some plays too. So I think there's those things all add up together.
How do you coach against the emotions of Saturday and then trying to not let that carry over to this weekend and be drained by that? I think the Seahawks kind of maybe had that problem coming off that Monday night win yesterday against the Niners, but talk about that, how you avoid that.
Yeah, I think it's experience, that we're trying to share wisdom with our guys that for as a coaching staff, we've been there on both sides of it, on weeks where we've been part of teams and programs that have done a really good job managing a big win, and been part of it where we haven't done as good a job, and those are the things you share with the kids just in very matter-of-fact detail, that we're expecting everybody that can be out there on Tuesday. You don't get an extra day off because of a big win, and it's critical to execute on a Tuesday. And Coach DeBoer and I were just talking about this actually, and some of the mishaps that can happen when guys think that there's some type of carryover, and you truly have to flush the game. I wish it was, anything different than that, but really, that was one of our huge points of emphasis yesterday, was that, we can't carry over. And I think, I alluded to that early on, that I was just really excited, proud of the guys that, they realize that we're still building, that we're still uptrending, that there's still a lot of work to do, and I think if the guys truly believe that in their heart and they continue to prepare like that, we'll continue to get better. That point of satiation where they just kind of, they're satisfied and they stop being hungry, that can be problematic. And we try to use, honestly, when I met with them, I said, I felt like we potentially played a team that had a little bit, their fridge was full and they weren't as hungry. And we just got to keep the padlock on that fridge and stay freaking hungry, man. That's going to be important.
You have a long history as an offensive line coach, obviously, and I'm wondering, how does your background as an O-line coach affect the way that maybe you see offense or the way that you call plays? Just having that breadth of knowledge, how does that affect the way that you do your job now? I'm really fortunate that way, that I've been able to coach, every position in offense at one point in my career. So I think when you have that, opportunity to be able to just see everything as a whole picture, I think it makes it a lot easier to call plays, honestly. I mean, you can think about what the challenges are for each individual, position group in a given moment, and what's going to be hard about that concept or that play or that moment. And those are the things I think you can always, at least try to add up and take account for to try to be successful. Because if you're just thinking from one train of thought or one path or one position, I think that can be, a disadvantage for your offense.
The fact that Mike hasn't been sacked through 3 weeks and now having gone up against the team that was leading the nation in sacks, does the credit for that go all the way around the entire offense? Talk about the O-line plus Mike
right,
collaborating to make that be a fact.
Well, I think the last part you said is the most important. It is, without question, it's a collaboration. It's running backs, it's offensive line, it's Mike. And the one time Mike got hit, he actually missed the protection flip. And I think it even surprised Mike because he pointed it out. He just forgot to flip the inside of the protection. So, Mike doesn't make those mistakes twice, though. So that's something that I think is a huge piece of it. Is those guys, they worked their tails off. We actually gave the detail award to the offensive line this week for their pass protection specifically. They put a ton of work into it. There was a lot of complex looks, specifically in red zone and third down, and they did a great job. They were ready to go. Corey made some great calls and kept the point in the right spot. So it's a lot of work, but it's more than just 5 guys. It's the quarterback, it's the running back, it's when it's not perfect, it's Mike getting the ball out of his hands. So there's a lot of things that obviously go with that. We just felt like going into the game that as long as we didn't give up any A-gap or B-gap problems, that we would be able to manage.
What do you make of the job that specifically Roger and Troy did on Windman in that game Saturday?
Yeah, honestly, and I'm not saying this in a overconfident way, I totally expected that. I did. I was going to be I would have been disappointed if they couldn't have handled him, just because they knew we had worked and drilled so hard. He had 2 very specific moves in his pass rush that we drilled into him, and I thought they did a great job of defending those 2 moves, and they knew what he was. He's a speed player with great athleticism, and so you just got to know what his one advantage is and take it away from him. And I thought specifically Troy did a fantastic job. I didn't feel like the pocket was ever in danger because of Troy.
So with Jackson back, if he is back, Troy's been playing great. Mm-hmm. Does Jackson slide back in at left tackle? Does Troy go to guard?
Right now, that's what we'd work, and more so just because we saw 2 things, I should say. Got a lot of film of Troy playing really, really well at guard as well throughout spring and fall camp. And then just, comfort level as far as Jackson's concerned. I know earlier in Jackson's career, he played a little bit of guard as well, and he could do that as well. But from a comfort standpoint, we'd probably make that the starting point. It doesn't mean that's how things always end up, but I think that's the easiest transition.
What's your philosophy or fourth quarter when you have a lead and trying to continue to be aggressive because you guys are moving the ball through the air all game, but also with clock and trying to manage that? How do you approach that?
This is a really long discussion. No, I'm just kidding. It's there's a fine line. There's one of those when you get done with the game is, did I stay aggressive enough? At the same time, was I trying to play team football? You have to weigh all those things out, and I think those are the calls you come back to, and you make honest assessments afterwards. Like, hey, I could have maybe taken a punch right here, and stayed a little more aggressive in this spot, or you know what, we didn't execute here, but this was a good call. We used this much clock, did these things. So that there definitely is a fine line. I think that some of those things, it's a moving target as well. If I thought the defense had an incredible game plan and played really, really well, and if things change and they start to move a little bit different way, and that lead gets different, you have to, adjust what you're calling.
All good?
All right.
Thanks. Thank you. That's right.
All right. As usual, I think Coach DeBoer will get started. Questions?
All right. Good afternoon. We fly after every win the whole week, and we fly the W and dubs up all week long. But we've already moved on. Last night after we met meetings and make our corrections, we spent a little time on the field, moving around, getting the bodies going. It's time to move on. And less than 24 hours after a nice win, big win for us, we're on to Stanford. So I'm excited about, the energy that should exist, that existed yesterday, that should exist tomorrow in practice when we get back on the football field. And, just also understanding that there are so many things that could have been even better than what happened Saturday night. So I think I know we got a group of guys that, felt that way at the beginning, that this could be where we're at. And now they see stacking days on top of days, practices on top of practices, and now games on top of games. It's been something that they really see, all the hard work paying off, and the belief and trust in each other, coming through, and, they're in a good spot. But we can't get full of ourselves. We got a big game this weekend, starting conference play, and we know Stanford had the weekend off, and so they're going to be fresh, and have had a lot of time to get ready to play us here this weekend. Had a chance to watch us and do some prep before even this weekend. So,
let alone not getting full of themselves and enjoying a victory too long, this almost seemed to reestablish this program, because it wasn't competitive last year. Even the games they won had to go down to the last second, and they didn't beat up on anybody but Arkansas State, which was expected. Did they feel a little bit more, who they are?
Yeah, I think, week one, I think I said it last week too. Week one, we had to play just to get on the football field, see where we're at, and feel that continuity. And you could tell that we were putting plays and stacking plays on top of plays. And I think then, week 1 and 2 were very similar as far as just, because of who we were facing. And then, a test against a top-ranked team that's coming across the country that's very well recognized, and respected. And, for our guys to prove that, and it showed in their preparation that there was confidence, because you can hear confidence through communication. You can hear it just in the way they are throughout the week. And, respect all, fear none is certainly a common theme that we have in our locker room, but it still can't just be words, and we needed to prove that it was words. We respected them throughout the week. And then I think, as much as we're trying to prove things to other people, first we got to prove it to ourselves. And we did that. And the guys are fired up. And I think, I don't think they're surprised, but I know they're really, in retrospect, thinking about where they're at and their confidence now compared to where they've been, in the past weeks, months, years. And so it's pretty cool to see, and that's why you do what you do as a football coach. Not just building a great team, but just helping guys realize that, you can become more than even what you think you can. And we're on that path.
What did the tape show you about the goal line offense? And it sounds like Ryan said you're a little maybe limited personnel-wise with Richard's kind of health. Or
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, you saw the guys that were on the field were the guys that won, the ones that took the most reps in those spots, offense and defense. And the execution certainly could have been better. I mean, we had to have been inches on the one where Wayne, actually the ball kind of fell out of his hands right at the goal line too. I mean, that literally had to be an inch or two, because I know his foot crossed the goal line. The ball did not. And so we tempoed, and Ryan talked about the execution. Sometimes can go both ways, and we just, got to stay lower with our pads. The scheme was there. We just got to execute a little bit better. And looking back on it, you always wonder when in the moment, like, okay, should we have done something different? I feel good about what we were trying to do. You can still continue to second guess and say, oh, we could have done this and probably been fine. But we had the amount of numbers we needed, and we just got to coach it up a little bit better and put those guys in those spots and make it happen next time and learn from it.
Kalen, you've been a very good play caller in the past, and it seems like there's kind of an art and science to the way you go about doing that. Seeing what Ryan's doing right now, what makes him a good play caller, and also how have you seen him evolve over the last couple of years you've been with him?
Yeah, it's just been awesome seeing it. First it starts with, I guess even before work ethic, I was going to say work ethic and how hard he works at making sure he knows and has a plan in place and knows what defenses are doing. But at first it starts with humility, that you don't know it all. And he just constantly is asking questions, learning, meeting with people. As proud as of a play caller he is. I mean, he, in the summer months and in the spring, just not afraid to bounce something off me. Nothing too big, nothing too small, and starts with that humility and that desire to have a growth mindset and always continue to get better. And then it goes to just the work ethic he has. Just, very few people that are ever going to beat him to the office and be here any later, and so him understanding and seeing what's out there on the football field, he's locked in. You can see, and what he's saying is almost happening, before it's happened, that, hey, this safety is going to widen at the snap. Oh, yep, there he goes. This linebacker's leaving space for someone to fill that area. And, that's what's happening. You click on the film on Sunday. And, what's really cool is hearing the checks that Mike makes, or the things that happen, are being pretty much almost talked and discussed on the headphones before it was made. That check that Mike might make, or, hey, this is going to be a throw, or this is going to be a handoff on an RPO, that's happening, and even the one I heard Coach Grubb talk about, the one protection that Mike didn't check, it's the time he really got hit, and that was being discussed on the sidelines over the headphones, Coach Grubb and, a couple other coaches as well, and all in sync. And just the management, the organization leads to great belief in the team, and when there's that belief that goes both ways between coordinator and quarterback, coordinator and coaches, coordinator, coaching staff, and now the players, and then the players giving that belief back to them. We're able to be really aggressive right now because we're confident Mike will be okay with checking it down and not force it down the field and put us in a tough spot where the ball is being turned over or hold on to the ball too long. Again, 2-minute drill going down the field at the end, the first half, and just, there's about 5 or 6 scenarios that you got to be ready for when you don't have the timeouts and stuff. And there's 30 seconds on the clock. It's fourth down. Not just that play, but you gotta be ready for the next play or two after that. And we're all in sync, and it's really cool, and it's fun to see him. And there's times and places you just don't get in his way. Give him the advice he needs to hear, or the things that he needs to hear. Managing the game. I heard you asking questions about that, and we won the game. And there just comes a mathematical, I believe this, doing it for 20 some years and having to close out games, there comes a mathematical piece where you just got to get that clock running. There's 4 possessions that have to be, to have. And, if you do the math, even worst case scenario, there's going to have to be multiple onside kicks that are going to have to be had for them to win the football game. And, that's not the way it feels. It doesn't always feel good sometimes that way, where the gap was closed at the end. But what's most important is that there's a W, and he found a way to win the game, and a lot of that's attributed to how great we were in the first 3+ quarters, and putting yourself in that spot to where there's a lot of different options and a lot of different ways the game can play out at the end.
You mentioned, just going back to Mike, I opened up the internet this morning. It was a scary place. I'm seeing Heisman hype for Penix.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah.
You want to embrace that? You want the kids to kind of maybe deal a bit about that, or just ignore it and move on, or how do you?
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. He was in it before, a couple years ago. At this time of the season, and you got to win football games. I think is a huge part of anything when it comes to those type of awards. And so I think if he just keeps his focus on what it's been, and that's winning football games, he's naturally going to be a big part of us winning. And so if we just focus on winning football games, those individual accolades will come. And it's fun. That's the way it is, not just with the quarterback position, the other positions as well. So pour into the team, pour into winning, pour into just being the best you can. And we would say live with the results, but the results will come in those form and fashions of getting those accolades.
Did you jump into that mosh pit into the game?
I did. I was just trying to make sure everything was all square, and making sure the Michigan State guys weren't in the middle of it. I saw their coaches were kind of trying to check, and I was still kind of I had my back to it actually when it came out, so I didn't even realize what was happening right away. And then just trying to make sure everything was all good with our players and our team, because there's a lot of energy, and about 99.9% of it was good. But you just always got to be ready for something when high emotions and excitement are all happening. But cool thing for our team. I know. Hopefully there's many, many more big victories down the road, and they all don't have to result in storming the field, because that becomes the expectation in our program.
You've won 3 national championships in your career. This was beating the 11th ranked team at home, and probably different levels of hype because it's at a bigger program. How do you compare some of your big wins in your career and what that was like?
Yeah, this is definitely one of them. Anytime you're and this is like you said, it's in a totally different stage in where we're at in our program, so that's why it's one of those big wins. And so it was a lot of fun. My biggest joy is always sitting back and watching players high five and hugs, sometimes tears, it wasn't tears when we walked in the locker room, but as I talked to individuals, there's guys that became choked up on what they've experienced and how they've seen themselves grow, this team grow. But just, there's nothing better than when you win championships, when you win big games, sitting back and just seeing the smiles and seeing, that's what I love as a head coach, is trying to facilitate an environment where, where the training staff, the equipment staff, the academics, you name the staff, the piece of the department, where they're all just so happy because they know how much everyone's poured into, getting to where we're at. And, hopefully this is just the beginning.
You got a couple loud special teams plays from Devon Banks and Carson. And what have those guys done to embrace kind of an underappreciated aspect of the game? And how important is that in terms of getting things rolling from a momentum standpoint?
No question. That was noticeable. Really noticeable. I made sure I addressed that in a strong way yesterday in the team meeting, just how, Bruner's hit and Devon had a couple, and 2 weeks ago, and where we're at now, the improvement we've made special teams wise. We aren't, again, not there yet, but in that area particular, we're trying to get those kicks deeper. But hey, if they're going to get returned, all right, let's go down and set the tone and be physical, understand our assignments, which we're getting better at every single week, feeding off each other. It's more complex than just running down as hard as you can and trying to, tackle the ball carrier. There's a lot happening, because if you do that, you'll get out schemed and out techniqued and all that. So, and then the mindset and just the hey, right? You don't know which way the ball carrier is going to be, and all of a sudden he's in your lap, and you got a chance to make that big hit. And Devon and Bruner and those guys all just being ready for the moment, and it was pretty sweet seeing that. And so I'm proud of the guys. Special teams, the buy-in, some of the biggest field changing times of the game are on special teams, and so we preach that. I've told them that referring to 3 national championships, all 3 national championships had special teams touchdowns in them, and so that's always going to be a big part of what's preached in our program.
Was this last weekend maybe the ultimate chance to sell your program? Because you had all these recruits here, I think, and then you had a national TV audience watching with potentially other recruits or just people catching on to what you're doing here. Yeah,
it was a huge, just kind of, we can talk it, and what the feel is, and we, talk about the family, and just, making this such a great experience for our guys, and winning's a huge part of that. And, it was a great advertisement for our program, whether it be across the country, but even just, the people that got a chance to experience, whether it be the fans, but in particular, as you referred, with our recruits that were here, committed, uncommitted, those guys just really experiencing it. It wasn't there was some, I guess, that maybe was eye-opening to them, wow, this place is special, this place is different, and they got a chance to see it firsthand.
The Michigan State rushing game, they averaged negative yards before contact in that game, which I haven't heard of happening a lot. What can you say about the defensive line play, the edge play, linebacker play that all went into that?
Yeah, it fires me up. It fires me up. It fires me up because, I think there's still there was those questions. I can tell by the way I get asked questions, and, what's the run defense? And I understand why those questions are asked, and I get it. And for us to even go from where we were at week 1, week 2, and now week 3, different opponents, different styles. A lot of the yards, came with the quarterback scrambling, and that's happened a few times, different type of quarterback scrambles, not as much with the designed run game, but a lot of the yards came that way. But when it came down to what Michigan State was trying to do, run the football, we were pretty locked in and loaded on being where we needed to be, understanding who was going where and how we all needed to play off each other, and just being physical when it came down to it. And a lot of gang tackling, that I saw, just a lot of, even a back spinning out or kind of trying to fight loose, and then just more guys there. And that's knowledge, of what we're trying to accomplish and how we do it, but also just effort and desire, and I thought we really rose to the occasion, and I love it because that's going to be an important piece of us going through conference play starting this weekend to be able to stop the run, make teams one-dimensional. I still feel like a huge strength of ours is getting after the quarterback, and we'll be able to do that as we go through the season, making teams one-dimensional.
Kalen, I asked Ryan about guarding against the emotional letdown after Saturday into Stanford. This is a program that UW's had some issues with over the years. Talk to me about how you coach against that and what you see these guys bring to the table Saturday.
Yeah, it's really, I don't care where you're at. You can make it about this program, the history. This is a totally different staff, a lot of new players. So to me, what has happened in the past isn't about now, but I know that the fan base and that I understand why that's discussed and talked about. So that's all fair. But I think it's the experiences you've been through and how you just you set it up. We've set this up not just this week for this moment. We've set this up ever since we got here. The 1-0 mindset and just moving forward, and whether it be the adversity, okay, and we talk about adversity and the response to adversity, making it temporary, which, by the way, I thought we were phenomenal at, our responses to scores that they had. We were great, but now when things are good, the response. And, our response is to, people let up. They fall below the standard of preparation, work ethic. And, we've set this up for this moment to make sure we have a good week and that, we don't take anything for granted. All those principles and concepts that we discuss from day one are built into these moments too, not just the ones where our backs are up against the wall.
When it comes to that run defense, some of those D linemen don't get the stats when it comes to tackles, and they're taking up double teams and stuff. Who did you see really stand out when it comes to Tuli and Fatui and MJ and all? Who stood out on tape?
Honestly, I know this is. I thought they all did a really good job, and I think they're straining, the word that I like. I've used it a couple times here, just to feel like they're straining. They knew they had to raise their game. All those guys, Tuli, Fatui, and. MJ, I thought I was excited for MJ because I told him this too, either Friday night or Saturday morning. I said, hey, I just feel like I remember getting on the elevator, and it was at the hotel, and asked him how he was doing. I just really thought he had a next level of, coming off his injury. I think, now he's more his recovery's been good, and now he's actually thriving again. He's actually progressing physically, and so I was really excited to see him get out there, and I think he had a great game, 15 to 20 snaps. I can't remember the exact number, but just did a really nice job. And they're playing within the scheme. They're doing what they're being asked to do. Like you said, they're not going to get a lot of the tackles. Other guys are going to get those tackles, but they're eating up blocks. And a guy like MJ in particular, he's going to eat up a lot of people. We know how hard that is, and I know how hard that's been over the years to block guys that size. But Tuli's, snapping off the ball at the line of scrimmage and causing problems, and Tui's also been just like really, just consistent, constant each and every play.
Going back to kind of how you set this thing up, game 1, game 2, game 3 and 4, how satisfying is it, and I'm going to use what Ryan Grubb said, that after such a big win, the players felt that they left some meat on the bone?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the exciting piece, because it could have gone. A couple fourth down plays, right? Both sides of the ball really is what it came down to. A couple more of those, and the game gets out of control a little bit even quicker. But you got to credit Michigan State making those plays and being physical, whether depending what side of the ball. But our guys, they see it. They see what they're capable of. They see the potential that exists within this 2022 football team, and they're just going to keep coming. And right now the next man up mentality is what's really cool. Also, just the next guy stepping in, and really us not hesitating and not flinching. Is a pretty neat thing. Goes along with the mindset we have. Just keep fighting, keep swinging.
People have noticed that Washington, Oregon, Wazoo, Oregon State are all off to really good starts. All look like they're pretty good teams at the same time. Is there any tangible benefit to the Pacific Northwest schools all being good at once?
Yeah, I would think that we're bringing notoriety obviously to our programs, but good football is being played, and it tells us that we got to be at our best, and that's why we got to keep improving. Because those games down the road are going to be big ones, and they're going to be against really good football teams, and so it's for us internally, to understand that we got to keep getting better, and then we represent each other in a way too, especially when we're playing these non-conference games, and that the Pac-12 conference is very strong, and it's obviously speaking on both sides of my mouth here, it's great to see, but it's also an understanding that we're going to have our hands full throughout the entire 12-game season.
Apparently, you won an award today. You see that?
No, I did not.
Dodge Coach of the Week. Dodge Trophy.
Oh, really? Okay. I did not know that. No, we've had a lot of prospects on campus, and so finishing that up, and I did not know.
Does that resonate with you and staff when you get that kind of?
Oh, it's all. I mean, it's again the board's just like we're talking about with Mike and the Heisman. I mean, it goes across the board, and there's no way without this staff. I know I get a lot of the credit here, and things don't go right. It goes the other way too. But I mean, this staff has just been awesome, and just the preparation, and the team's been incredible. It's just that those awards are all team things to me. So I appreciate it. Appreciate these guys.
Anything else for Coach?
All right. Thank you, guys.